Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Saffron Honey Chai. Now, I know what you're thinking, so don't call Paw Patrol, but we need to talk about PE and why that's a little bit harsh. It's 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 got the right idea. It's got the right idea. Terrible execution. Now, I don't know what the modern PE curriculum looks like right now, right this second, but growing up, it was random activities we were doing somewhat as play, somewhat as torment. The pacer test, the fitness gram pacer test. Ugh, truly from the devil himself. And then that one yearly chance for you to be rated and weighed in front of all your classmates and enemies, your greatest ops all in one room, watching them announce how much you weigh, how little or how much you can do a push up, run, this, that, next, the third. And it's truly simply not it. And then, most importantly, or rather, most despairingly for me, is the fact that we didn't learn anything about our actual anatomy from PE class. Let me break it down for y'all. Since turning like 25, I started to become a gym rat. I was like, hold on, like this gym thing. I might be into it. Let me give it a shot. Let me see what it's like. And I learned about my muscle groups, and I learned about how to optimize certain activities in my body. And I learned about different supplements and how that helps my body do what I want it to do. And I really just independently, with my own free time in Google, learned how to do all kinds of stuff that I personally feel should have been part of the curriculum in general. Because why, oh why, was I in class for 18 years? More or less, probably like less than that. 18 years. I wasn't in school from like the time I was born, but you get it. I was in school for the time I was just a wee bab. We're doing PE, okay? We're doing PE. I didn't learn about any bones, about any muscles. I didn't learn about how to mitigate potential sports injuries. People were athletes and they still had to do PE. So they were working out 4 or 5 hours a day, not even including the games they were doing. And they still had to do PE. And then the rest of us who were doing PE, we're just doing activities. Now, granted, do I think a bunch of very small kids would be interested in hearing about their latimus dorsi? No, probably not. Probably you would end up with a bunch of really annoying jokes about Dorsey's finding Nemo or whatever's coming up now. But I do think at a certain point it would have been quite fun and interesting for us to really get a chance to understand ourselves, because physical education should mean that you're really getting educated about your body and how it interacts with the rest of the world. And for me personally, growing up at a somewhat underfunded inner city schools, I'm gonna tell you that wasn't the case. And then gym class was so unenjoyable and boring to me, I started doing a dance class. But even dance class was running into the same pitfalls that PE class was going into. I got an injury, and my mother didn't want to take me to the doctor. She was like, whatever. The dance teacher knew I was injured. And then after a certain point of me like just sitting there on the sideline, she was like, well, even though I know you're injured, I know you're injured. I know you got hurt. You got hurt in front of me. You got hurt in front of me. I saw it happen. I still want you to participate because I feel like you're dragging it now. And so I just had to force myself to continue through the injury because as a minor, I couldn't make my own appointments and attend them on my own. I couldn't pay for them on my own either because I didn't have a job. And then, even though she knew the situation, she knew what was going on, she was there when it happened. She was still like, I can't just have you sitting in here. And the thing is, if she had just given me something separate to do that was still physical, I would have done it. Gladly. Gladly. There are plenty of dance moves that you can do with your upper body. There are plenty of warm-ups I could have participated in upper body wise. If she had, been willing to make an accommodation for me, I wouldn't have had an issue with that at all. Because at the end of the day, as a minor, you're kind of under the purview of your parents. Like, you can't really make your own decisions like that. So if I can't make my own appointment, if I can't attend it by myself, then I'm cooked. And if you saw it happen as a teacher, you should have a little moment of like, maybe we should think about that a little bit. but she didn't. And now that's where we are. And then just for years, I wasn't able to enjoy moving my body because, I'm fat. You all can see I'm fat right here. But being a fat child growing up in the early 2000s to, 2010s, it felt worse than being Osama bin Laden, I think. He was chilling in a cave somewhere at a certain point. He was in a compound, living his best life, eating like nice food, hanging out with his peers. He was like, I've done what I had to do. But they made me feel like a goddamn terrorist for being fat and not hating that I was fat every second of my day. I was like, there's nothing I can do about it right now in the immediate moment. So I'm just going to work with what I have and continue moving my body. I was a big walker. I love to walk. I love to walk. I love to run. I love just doing shenanigans, moving around, doing fun stuff. That was my whole thing. And then I obviously have some sort of desire to become stronger because I independently undertook weightlifting on my own. And then later on, found a really cool guy who helped me train myself. Shout out to you because I know you watch the videos. But during what could have been my physical peak, I didn't have anyone supporting me actually improving my body. They just wanted to make my body smaller. They were like, the BMI is this. You can't run fast enough on the pacer test. Are we spending the whole year in PE making ourselves stronger and faster and more agile for the PE exam that has to come up every year? Are we doing plyometrics? Are we learning how to use our body explosively? No. Are we even participating in any minor running drills at any given point in time? No. We're like, oh my God. The only memories I have of like elementary school PE, we're just running around in circles and like doing our little we did our mobility drills. That was really good. But they didn't tell us, hey, this is good for you because when you're old, if you don't do these, you'll be hurt. But for the most part, it was just bouncing on balls and just running around and playing tag and stuff. It was basically like a play period minus a few specific activities. And that could have been a really great time to instill good habits in us so that we know, okay, this is actually good for your life. Now, granted, there are going to be some people who are like, I don't really care about what's good for my what do I care about? I want to watch Roblox. I want to, participate in this 12-hour game playthrough. I just want to watch it and sit there and scroll on my phone or just stay online all day on coolmathgames.com. Live my best life. I understand that. But the option wasn't even presented. And I think if you are giving a test, the test has to make sense. Okay? It has to make sense. It can't just be, well, I'm testing you on something I never made sure you knew how to do or never made sure you knew how to do well. The most important thing I think I've learned since I started my personal fitness journey was about my VO2 max. Your VO2 max is basically about how you can get energy to move more efficiently throughout your body, rather oxygen, throughout your bloodstream, so you won't become fatigued as quickly, so you'll be able to have a greater endurance. No one ever mentioned school that, oh, you're huffing and puffing and struggling during this running test because you have a low VO2 max. Probably my PE teachers didn't even know about that. They probably were like, I don't think these kids will understand. But if you can present it in a way that's cool and engaging to children, think of it, hold on, I can I can be like the Flash. I can be fast. And all it takes is like these little tweaks. And I thought when I learned that, I was like, okay, first and foremost, that would have been so useful to me. And then as I began my little steps to implement it, I was like, hold on. Hold on. Not only could this have been extremely useful to me, but this is making me not only faster, but just better in general. Like my breathing is better. I can breathe deep. I can move well. I can go long distances and not feel exhausted and not feel fatigued. The worst thing for me is just being outside in the cold winter. That hurts. The air is like a knife. But in general, I'm so much more efficient than I ever was before in my life. And I undertook this on my own. I undertook this on my own, of my own free will, with my own free time and my own money. And I check up on my doctors to make sure everything's running in order. But I think we're really doing children of this nation, of the world, potentially a disservice by not teaching them why they're doing the things. There's one thing to cultivate obedience because sometimes it's just like, it's just easier if everyone just falls in line and does what they're supposed to do. But it's another thing entirely if we're not teaching students, children, our future, how to do the best they can with what they have, we're putting ourselves in a horrible position. Because now children, and even then when I was growing up, dreaded PE because it was humiliating. It was like being in a humiliation ritual every single week. So every week, multiple times a week, you get embarrassed, you get humiliated because you can't run fast. The teacher, perhaps the class is too big, they can't do any interventions. They can't say, hey, you are huffing and puffing a lot. Let's see if we can get you checked out for asthma. Let's see if we can get anything to happen. But that's also because schools only have a nurse, they don't have a doctor. And even though schools operate in local parentis, they don't have the authority to make sure that you see a doctor during school time because a lot of parents will be pissed off. Why would you authorize a test on my child to find out that they have asthma, to see that they need glasses? Because a lot of parents like to be in denial about things that are wrong with their kids. They think that if something's wrong with the kids, something's wrong with them, probably so. But they think so deeply about their feelings. They focus so hard on their feelings because of various reasons that they almost completely ignore the child. And because these things all stack up and add on to each other, we're getting sedentary people. They're not lazy. They just don't know that it can be good to move, that it can feel great to move and go run around and play. And also, moving away from play, that was a terrible thing because people who didn't like PE loved recess. They loved the option to do play activities, even up until like as soon as they took it away from us in middle school. People were still outside playing jump rope, swinging on the swings, doing certain playground activities until it felt like, what am I doing? Why am I on playground accoutrement? I'm almost I'm almost 6 feet tall. I shouldn't do this anymore. Like, certain times, maybe that will start to feel a certain way. But in general, humans err towards play. Play is what we do. That's why we have sports. And not just team sports, they're independent sports. There are all kinds of sports you can do. You can do badminton, you can do this, you can do that. It was more focused on like a sports setting and like teaching little bits of things and letting anyone really dive into any one thing. That did put us a little bit behind, a lot behind actually. Now everyone has mobility issues and back pain and their tummy hurts because, well, at least when I was growing up, the lunches all of a sudden became very nasty and cardboard because, sorry, Michelle Obama, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but like your healthy food initiative did not go as you planned. I understand you. Bureaucracy does cruel things to us all, but it was rough. So poor nutrition and no nutritional education. It was just eat your fruits and vegetables, follow the food pyramid. Didn't talk about fiber, didn't talk about protein, none of that. And then people knew what fiber and protein were doing this whole time. Everyone knows, oh, you have to eat your roughage. Why do you have to eat your roughage? That's fiber. And the fiber is good for your gut. And it helps clear out different toxins and waste from your body. That's why you poop. Waste product. It's a waste product. And it takes all the bad stuff in you, the waste from your food, anything your body can't use in a healthy manner. It helps drain it out. Same thing why you have to drink a decent amount of water. Your kidneys will flush out anything that needs to be flushed out. And there's the liver, there's all these different organs. You can get this information in PE. And if it's physical education, I feel it should be educating you on your physical body. But that's just me. And what do I know? I'm just someone who's undertaken a pretty serious gym rat journey just because I think it's fun. I'm having a blast. I love lifting up heavy things. I love moving around every single day. I love checking my step counter and seeing 16,000. Oh my, we did our big one. I love, 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 love seeing how hard I work my body, seeing the like percentage of muscle I have now versus when I started. I love, 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 love talking to my dietitian, talking to my trainer, looking at how I can optimize my workout plans, get me where I need to go. When I started hitting legs, y'all, my speed running increased so much. I can run and have so much endurance now because I can hip thrust 270. The glutes, even though, I know I mentioned before, we're blasting our glutes. That's not what you're supposed to do. But the back support of having good glutes, good strong glutes, unparalleled. The posture it gives you as you're running forward, I'll never miss an MTA bus again. And they think they can run from me. They cannot. You cannot run from me. I will meet you at the next stop. As long as I'm wearing good shoes and nice sneakers, I will meet you at the next stop and then you will hear from me. I will cuss you. Respectfully. Obviously, I won't cuss you. I'm a nice person. But I'll be like, so you saw me? You saw me running and you drove right past me? We made eye contact. You're sick. Get help. But all this to say, one of the greatest books that helped me on my journey was reading Move Your DNA by Katie Bowman. And when I got into it, I wasn't sure what it was about, but it was just about how to naturally move your body. Things that we forget in our modern world. Now, some things she lost me on. There was a chapter about how it's probably much better to walk around barefoot than to wear shoes. Uh, You lost me completely there. I'm scared. I live in the inner city and there's sometimes sharp things on the ground. I'm scared and I don't want to build a lot of calluses on my little paws. I need them to be safe and sound. But there were so many common sense things said in that book. What you train to do is what you can do. So if you train specifically just to push heavy weight, if you train to do a chest press and you never do any other exercises that will improve your chest press like viability in the real world, then your chest press is just to do it at the gym. But if you, for example, are doing your squats so that you can always pick up someone who might need your help. Let's say you're a fireman and you're always doing your squats. So you know for a fact, your squats in your arm, your full body, you know for a fact, if somebody falls down, you got them. If someone can't walk, over their shoulder you go. Over your shoulder they go, rather. Like, it's little things like this that were so obvious in the book. And then when I think back on PE, we weren't training to do anything. We were just we're just doing 100,000 days of nonsense and shenanigans, which can be fun. But if we're going to give a test and we want our youth to be strong, to be agile, and to have endurance, we have to actually train those things in and teach them the importance. I didn't get my first health class till I was in like 7th grade. And that was because it was a big deal because they were scared about us learning sex education. There needs to be a health class at every single age with normal, reasonable sex education because your physical health includes your reproductive health. And that doesn't mean we're going to be teaching little kids about sexual things. No, this just means people are going to understand how their body functions. Sometimes, if you're having your period and it's way too strong, that will impact your ability to perform in PE class. But if you don't know what that means exactly, if you're like, well, I'm having my period, so that just means this is happening, you won't understand that you're not supposed to feel like you got kicked in the stomach every day, that you're on your period, and that it's not supposed to be debilitating unless there's a class that tells you that. And in case you didn't know, your period is supposed to be mildly uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be something that feels like you'll die. You're always supposed to be able to maintain your normal physical standards of life minus a little bit of the owies. If you're having too much of that, you do need to see a doctor. You need to see a doctor because that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be feeling like your whole entire organs are going to fall out of your hoo-ha. That's not supposed to happen. But they don't teach you that. So when you get into it, you have to talk to your mom or talk to your grandma or talk to an aunt. And if they don't know, they're going to give you whatever nonsense shenanigans. So Do I think we should redo our PE system? Yes. I think we need an overall health education rehaul. I think we all need to lock in on that and make sure not only do we know how to move our bodies and move our minds and move our souls, but we need to know how to tie everything together. Because it doesn't matter if you can lift heavy, if your nutrition is trash. You're going to eventually get an injury if you're not eating enough protein. You're going to eventually be too fatigued to work out if you don't have enough carbs. And if you get gastrointestinal cancer because you don't eat fiber, yikes, shock, terror. And we don't want that. Now, granted, as adults, we all have free will and free time and free or at a fee access to the internet at many given times in any point in your day. So you can look these things up for yourself. But for a lot of children, they don't have the mindset to look that up. Now, because our joints are hurting, we're thinking about that. But they need to be thinking about that because eventually their joints will hurt too. And we have to do our part to make sure that happens. So if you're a parent, get invested in their physical education. Get invested in their health education. Make sure they know what the hell's going on. Make sure that we're open to asking why. And maybe get a little A&P in, elementary school and up. I think everyone should know certain muscles. It's like, oh, my leg, my this, my that. It would also probably make doctor's appointments a lot easier. Ultimately, I just want us to stay safe and stay swole. That's what I've always wanted. That's what I've always dreamed of doing. And now I'm here. I want more people here with me. Not to feel like they have to change their body in any specific way, but just so they know they have control over their body and over what they can and cannot do. You can change yourself in any way, shape, or form. And not just to fit a beauty standard, but just to feel good. Ultimately, that's all I really had to say today. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in again. Your comments, your likes, your shares, they all mean a lot to me. And the Patreon subscribers. You guys are definitely the best. And I hope that if you don't have a fitness routine of any type, that you go out there and get one. You don't have to be lifting stuff in the gym. You can take a Zumba class. I love Zumba. If you find a good one in Brooklyn or Queens, let me know. I might show up. In any case, thanks so much for tuning in to Saffron Honey Chai. We'll see you next time.